Thank you, Senator Sullivan. Senator Peters, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to our witnesses, thank you for being here today. It's been quite a wide-ranging discussion. I think a lot of questions have already been asked that I was going to ask, but I'll be brief and just kind of drilling down on some of the responses that I've heard. On the last question about a weapon system of the F-16 and understanding that it's not just a platform, you got to have a whole system around those platforms and going into combat as well. It's a complicated combined arms type of tactics that you have to use. But one question I had is contribution that the Germans have made. There's been questions related to European contributions, and the Germans, I believe, made a pretty significant contribution with the Leopard 2 tanks. But I'm curious as to your assessment of that tank going into combat. Clearly, a tank by itself is not a game changer. It has to be part of a broader system. But Ms. Massicotte, General Kellogg, could you talk a little bit about what you think the Leopard 2 will bring to the defensive and offensive capabilities of the Ukrainian military?
Sir, it's one of the 3 best tanks in the world. When you look at that, I happen to think the Abrams tank made by the United States is the best tank in the world. The Challenger 2 system that the Brits are providing is very good, and so is the Leopard 2 system. They're all high quality. I think all 3 of them overmatch anything the Russians currently have. They fight them together. But at the same time I'm saying that, put them together in sets. If you're going to put the Leopard system with it out in the field, put the Marder system, the personnel carrier with it. If you're going to put the Abrams in the field, you put the Bradley with it. The Challenger doesn't really have a sister vehicle as good as ours that is out there. You kind of put a Bradley with it as well. But those systems are very good. And I think they just need to commit to giving those systems. I think the Germans would admit they would prefer not to have the Russians back on their front doorstep again. So push those systems forward. They're all good systems. They overcompensate the Russian systems very, very, very well. And the Ukrainians can fight those systems. They're good enough, they're smart enough to figure them out.
Yeah, and they're training them right now. And you mentioned the T-62s that are being refurbished by the Russians. A Leopard is a good match for that one, isn't it?
It's beyond a good match, sir. It's an overmatch, which is okay by me.
Overmatch is always better.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Massicotte.
Well, I think we need a long-term strategy for Ukraine because they've been cut off from receiving all of their Russian equipment. And I think the Leopards are a start in that. I'm not sure how the Ukrainians are planning on using those in the year ahead, whether it's keeping them in reserve and keeping them back and putting some of the older equipment forward to engage with the Russians directly. But counteroffensives are hard. They're hard for the Ukrainians, and it's not just tanks that will enable that success. It needs continued U.S. and Western intelligence support and planning guidance.
Well, clearly, you need more than just tanks. You need artillery, you need air support, you need intelligence, all of those factors. That's just part of the list, yes. A long list of what's necessary. One of the weapon systems that is changing warfare dramatically, and I think we saw this in Azerbaijan, was the use of drones. And drone warfare continues to advance pretty rapidly, and we're going to see increased developments as AI systems power drones as well. My question to you is, Iran is now providing drones. Do we have any assessment as to how those drones are being used? Are they effective? Give me a sense of what you think that's bringing to the battlefield, Iran's involvement working with Russia in regards to drones. Ms. Massicotte, you want to start, and then General Kellogg?
Thank you, Senator. Yes, the Shahed drones, they don't exactly have a very large payload, but it is complicating the picture for Ukrainian defenders. In the early days when Russia introduced that capability into Ukraine, Ukrainians were using surface-to-air missiles to engage those drones. That is a really quick way to attrit that capability. And they've changed over time. I think they're using anti-aircraft guns now. They're doing other things to bring those down. There are rumors that Russia and Iran are potentially going to open up some kind of production capability inside Russia to create hundreds of those. That is a way for Russia to augment its precision strike capabilities. I mean, again, the payload is very small. They're using it to go after soft targets, cities. It stresses Ukrainian defenses. And I think that's another issue we have to really look at is the status of Ukrainian air defense interceptor missiles.
Talk a little bit more about the production that we may see in Russia.
From what I understand, the rumors in the press, there would be a Iranian-Russian effort to produce, I think, a few hundred drones. That's what I saw in the press.
Okay. General Kellogg?
Iran's got a massive drone inventory, and they've figured out how to use these primarily when they used them against the Saudis. They use kamikaze drones and swarm technology, and putting massive amounts of drones against the Ukrainians, that the Ukrainians just can't manage all of those targets at the same time. So the fact is that giving all of these drones actually changes the nature of the battlefield. Individually, though, they're effective, but they're not going to change the nature of the battlefield. But you put them in combination with your artillery, your ground forces as well, then it starts to change. It's a new technology. Iranians have perfected it, and they're passing that to the Russians.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Peters.